The battle for Emma's birthday. In the quiet suburban sprawl of Willow Creek, a neighborhood nestled in the heart of suburban Ohio, life moved at a predictable rhythm. Rows of well-kept homes, manicured lawns, and white picket fences painted a picture of tranquility. But beneath the surface of this idyllic community, tensions simmered, and for the Thompson family, a storm was brewing that would test their resolve in ways they never imagined. Emma Thompson, my daughter, was the heartbeat of our family. Born with a rare neurological condition that confined her to a wheelchair, she faced challenges most could scarcely comprehend. Yet, at 10 years old, Emma radiated a joy that could light up the darkest room. Her laughter was infectious, her curiosity boundless, and her spirit unbreakable. She found wonder in the smallest moments: the rustle of leaves in the autumn breeze, the warmth of a sunbeam on her face, the chatter of squirrels in our backyard. Her condition didn't define her, her resilience did. As her parents, my wife Laura and I, along with our teenage son Ethan, dedicated ourselves to ensuring Emma's life was as full as possible. We surrounded her with love, encouragement, and the tools she needed to thrive. But more than anything, we wanted her to experience the normalcy every child deserves: the simple joys of friendship, play, and celebration. Her birthday was always a special occasion, a chance to honor not just her life, but her unyielding spirit. This year, her 10th birthday was going to be extraordinary. We'd been planning it for months, pouring our hearts into every detail to make it a day she'd never forget. Emma had chosen the theme herself, a magical unicorn wonderland. She'd spend hours sketching ideas for decoration: sparkling streamers, pastel balloons, and a cake topped with a shimmering unicorn horn. We'd rented the community center in Willow Creek, a spacious venue perfect for accommodating Emma's wheelchair and her friends, many of whom also used mobility aids. The guest list included her closest school friends, a tight-knit group who adored her. Everything was set for a day filled with laughter, music, and magic. But just days before the event, a shadow fell over our plans in the form of Margaret Hensley, a formidable figure in our homeowners association. Margaret was the kind of person who thrived on control. In her late 50s, with a sharp tongue and an even sharper eye for perceived infractions, she was a self-appointed guardian of Willow Creek's rules. From the height of hedges to the shade of mailbox paint, nothing escaped her scrutiny. We'd clashed with her before over trivial Matersa car parked an inch too close to the curb, a garden gnome deemed tasteless. But nothing could have prepared us for the battle she was about to wage. It started with a phone call. I was in the garage, stringing fairy lights for the party when my phone buzzed. Margaret's name flashed on the screen, and my stomach tightened. Her voice, clipped and dripping with authority, cut through the line. "James, we need to discuss this event you're planning at the community center. It's come to my attention that it violates several HOA regulations." I gripped the phone, trying to keep my tone even. "What regulations, Margaret? We booked the center months ago. Everything's in order." She launched into a litany of complaints, each more absurd than the last. The community center, she claimed, was reserved for formal events: board meetings, book clubs, not rowdy children's parties. She went on about noise levels, potential damage to the facility, and, most galling, the inconvenience of accommodating Emma's wheelchair. "It's not practical," she said, her voice cold. "The setup for a disabled child's party could disrupt other residents." I felt a surge of anger, but forced myself to stay calm. "This isn't just any party, Margaret. It's Emma's 10th birthday. She's been looking forward to it for months. We've planned everything to ensure it's accessible for her and her friends." Margaret didn't budge. "Rules are rules, James. I'm afraid you'll need to cancel. If you proceed, I'll have to escalate this to the HOA board." The call ended, but her words lingered like a poison. Cancel Emma's party? The idea was unthinkable. Laura, who'd overheard the conversation, looked at me with a mix of disbelief and fury. "She can't do this," she said, her voice trembling. "She can't take this away from Emma." But Margaret wasn't done. Over the next few days, her campaign intensified. She sent emails citing obscure bylaws, left voicemails demanding we reconsider, and even stopped by our house to complain about the gaudy decorations we'd started setting up. It wasn't about rules anymore. It was personal. She seemed determined to crush Emma's joy. as if the sight of a disabled child celebrating was an affront to her sense of order. As the party drew closer, the pressure mounted. Margaret's threats grew more severe. She hinted at fines, legal action, and police involvement. I couldn't shake the image of Emma, oblivious to the drama, bubbling with excitement as she picked out her unicorn-themed dress. How could I let this woman ruin her day? How could I explain to my daughter that someone wanted to stop her from celebrating because of who she was? We faced a choice: back down and let Margaret win, or fight for Emma's right to her moment of happiness. The decision was clear. We weren't just fighting for a party. We were fighting for our daughter's dignity, for her place in a world that too often tried to push her aside. What happened next would not only shock Margaret, but reshape our entire community. The days leading up to Emma's birthday were a whirlwind of preparation and anxiety. Laura and I worked tirelessly, coordinating with vendors, arranging accessible seating, and double-checking every detail. Ethan pitched in, too, painting signs and helping Emma design party favors. The community center was transformed into a unicorn paradise, twinkling lights, fluffy clouds hanging from the ceiling, and a towering cake that looked like it had been plucked from a fairy tale. Emma's eyes sparkled as she rolled through the space, pointing out her favorite decorations. "It's perfect, Daddy," she said, her voice full of awe. But Margaret's shadow loomed large. Her calls became more frequent, her tone more aggressive. She claimed the decorations violated the center's aesthetic guidelines, that the guest list was too large, and that the music would disturb nearby residents. Each complaint was a jab, a reminder of her power. I tried to reason with her, explaining how much this meant to Emma, but she dismissed me. "This isn't about your daughter," she snapped. "It's about maintaining standards." Her words cut deep. Maintaining standards? To Margaret, Emma's very existence seemed to fall short of her vision for Willow Creek. I hung up, my hands shaking. Laura, sensing my frustration, placed a hand on my shoulder. "We can't let her win, James. Emma deserves this." 2 days before the party, Margaret escalated her threats. She called late in the evening, her voice icy. "I'm giving you one final warning. Cancel this event, or I'll have no choice but to involve the authorities. You'll face fines, and your family will be banned from using the community center again." I felt a chill run through me. The idea of police showing up at Emma's party was unimaginable. I pictured her in her sparkly dress, surrounded by friends, only to have the day ruined by sirens and uniforms. But giving in wasn't an option. "The party's happening, Margaret," I said, my voice steady. "Do what you have to do." The morning of the party arrived, and the community center buzzed with excitement. Balloons bobbed in the air, music played softly, and the scent of vanilla cake filled the room. Emma, radiant in her unicorn dress, rolled from friend to friend, her laughter echoing. Laura and I exchanged a nervous glance, but we pushed our worries aside. This was Emma's day, and we'd do everything to protect it. The guests arrived, kids from Emma's school, some in wheelchairs, others bounding with energy. Parents chatted, snapping photos as the kids played games. Everything was perfect. Then, just as the party hit its stride, I saw a familiar car pull into the parking lot. My heart sank. Margaret. She strode into the center, arms crossed, her face a mask of righteous indignation. The room grew quiet, the festive atmosphere faltering. "James," she said, her voice cutting through the music. "We need to talk. Now." I motioned her to a corner, determined to keep this away from Emma. "What is it, Margaret?" "We're in the middle of a party." She didn't mince words. "This event is a violation of HOA rules. It's too loud, too chaotic, and frankly, inappropriate for a disabled child to host in a public space. I'm shutting it down." Her words hit like a slap. "Inappropriate?" I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my voice level. "This is my daughter's birthday. We've followed every rule and paid every fee. You have no right to stop this." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "I've warned you, James. If you don't end this now, I'll call the police. You'll be fined, and this family will be blacklisted from community events." The room was watching now, parents and kids alike sensing the tension. I glanced at Emma, giggling as she played with a friend. My heart ached. This was her moment, and Margaret was trying to steal it. I made a choice. "You don't get to decide what happens here," I said, my voice rising. "This party is going on. If you have a problem, take it up with someone else." Margaret's face reddened, but she didn't back down. "The HOA will hear about this. and you'll regret it." She turned to leave, but not before adding, "This isn't over." The door slammed behind her, and the room fell silent. Laura rushed to my side, her eyes wide. "What do we do now?" she whispered. "We keep going," I said, forcing a smile. "For Emma." The party resumed, but the mood had shifted. Parents whispered, and kids glanced nervously at the door. I knew Margaret wasn't bluffing to follow through on her threats. But I also knew we couldn't let her win. Not today, not ever. As the party continued, I couldn't shake the dread in my chest. Emma was blissfully unaware, twirling in her wheelchair, but Laura and I exchanged worried looks. Margaret's exit hadn't ended the battle. It had only marked the beginning of a larger war. We needed a plan, and fast. After the last guest left and Emma was tucked into bed, Laura and I sat at the kitchen table, exhausted but determined. "She's not going to stop," Laura said, her voice low. "She'll keep coming after us until she gets her way." I nodded. "We need to fight back, not just for Emma, but for everyone she's bullied. This isn't just about us anymore." The idea came to me as I replayed Margaret's threats in my mind. She wielded the HOA like a weapon, twisting rules to suit her agenda. What if we turned her system against her? What if we exposed her for the tyrant she was? The next morning, I called a few trusted neighbors, Tom and Susan from across the street, who'd had their run-ins with Margaret over a non-compliant fence, and Rachel, a single mom who'd been fined for her son's basketball hoop. I explained what had happened at the party, and their outrage mirrored ours. "She's gone too far," Tom said. "We're with you." Word spread quickly. Neighbors we'd barely spoken to reached out, sharing their own stories of Margaret's overreach. She'd fined one family for planting unauthorized flowers and harassed another for hosting a garage sale. The more we talked, the clearer it became. Margaret wasn't just a nuisance. She was a bully, and we weren't her only victims. I spent hours drafting a letter to the HOA board, detailing Margaret's actions not just at Emma's party, but her pattern of abuse across the neighborhood. I included statements from neighbors, photos of the party set up to prove we'd followed guidelines, and a video Tom had recorded of Margaret's confrontation at the center. The letter was meticulous, painting Margaret as a power-hungry tyrant who'd lost sight of the HOA's purpose, to foster community, not control it. We sent the letter to every board member, with copies to the local newspaper and community social media groups. If Margaret wanted a fight, we'd make sure the whole town saw it. But we didn't stop there. Laura suggested a bolder move, a community meeting to air grievances and rally support. We chose the community garden, a neutral space, and invited everyone who'd been affected by Margaret's rules. The meeting was a revelation. Dozens of neighbors showed up, some hesitant at first, others eager to speak. Rachel shared how Margaret had threatened to evict her over a minor lease violation. Susan recounted being shamed for her unsightly holiday lights. As stories poured out, laughter mingled with anger. Margaret had built her authority on fear, but here, in the open, her power crumbled. We recorded the meeting, capturing every testimony. That evening, I posted the video online with a caption, "This is what happens when one person thinks they can control a community. We're standing up for what's right." The response was explosive. Within hours, the post had hundreds of shares, comments flooding in from neighbors and strangers alike. People shared their encounters with Margaret, and soon, the narrative shifted. She wasn't the untouchable enforcer anymore. She was the villain in a story of community defiance. A week later, the HOA board responded. Under pressure from the viral video and mounting complaints, they had no choice but to act. Margaret was suspended from her position, effective immediately, for abuse of authority and conduct detrimental to the community. The announcement was a victory, but the real triumph was what followed. The neighborhood changed. Families who'd kept to themselves started connecting and organizing barbecues, playdates, and movie nights. The community center, once Margaret's domain, became a hub of activity, with events designed to include everyone, regardless of ability or background. Emma's party had sparked a movement, a reminder that no one should be silenced or sidelined. For our family, the true reward was seeing Emma's joy that day. After Margaret's exit, the party roared back to life. Kids danced, parents sang, and Emma, glowing in her unicorn dress, was the star of the show. When we cut the cake, her smile was brighter than any decoration. Laura and I stood back, watching her laugh with her friends, and I knew we'd done the right thing. We'd fought for her, and we'd won. In the weeks that followed, Margaret faded from view. Neighbors reported seeing her less often, her once constant patrols replaced by a quiet retreat. The community, on the other hand, thrived. Emma's birthday became a legend in Willow Creek, a story told at block parties and school pickups. It wasn't just about a party anymore. It was about standing up to injustice, about proving that love and unity could overcome even the most stubborn opposition. As I reflect on that day, I realize the lesson it taught us. Margaret underestimated us, but more importantly, she underestimated the power of a community united. She thought she could control us with rules and threats, but she didn't account for the strength of a family fighting for their child, or the resolve of neighbors tired of being pushed around. In the end, her attempt to ruin Emma's birthday only made us stronger. That night, as we cleaned up the community center, Emma rolled up to me, her eyes shining. "Daddy, that was the best day ever," she said. I knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You deserved every second of it, sweetheart." We'd shown Emma and ourselves that no one, no matter how powerful, could take away what mattered most. Love, resilience, and community had triumphed, and that was a victory worth celebrating. What do you think? Have you ever faced a bully like Margaret, someone who tried to control or diminish others? How did you stand your ground? Share your thoughts in the comments below, especially on the themes of bullying and injustice. Do you believe standing up is always worth it, or are there times when it's better to walk away? Let's get the conversation going. Your perspective matters.